What's up? I'm Jordan.
And I'm Dial.
And this is Roads Optional. On today's episode, for lack of a better term, we're actually going to do Dial's kind of build walkthrough, build breakdown on his Jeep. Actually, we'll do a video on that someday too. He's kind of into the RC rock crawling.
Just got into it because of a road trip I had last year, and I was like, I gotta have some wheeling to take with me, so I got that little RC car, and I've been getting into it more and more. It's a lot of fun.
That's so much fun. That's the kind of rock crawling I could probably afford to get into it.
Yeah, it's a lot less expensive.
But let's talk about this thing, the kind of elephant in the room. Jesus. So here's mine for scale.
What year's yours?
Mine's 05.
Yours an 05? Okay, so mine's also an 05.
Yeah.
It's a 05, the same exact Jeep basically. It's a TJ Unlimited Rubicon.
Yeah.
At least that's what it started as.
It started as something similar to that, just red.
Yep.
And it's gone way
we'll put a picture up. I can show you.
Heck yeah.
We can show you what it used to look like. And I've had it for about 8 years now. I got it in May of 2015. So it's been, almost 9 years, I guess. A little over 8 years,
wow,
almost 9 years. Again, bone stock. And then over that period of time, it's turned into what you see here. It's been a lot of fun. I started off, didn't know anything about Jeeps or suspension or off-roading, and now we've learned some stuff and ended up with something that works on some of the rocks out here.
Yeah, this is wild. So I don't even know where to start. Actually, first of all, why did you go with the LJR, as we call it?
Yeah, well, so I was in college and I joined what was called the Clemson Off-Road Club, and it was just a bunch of kids in college who like to do off-roading in the Southeast, and I didn't have a Jeep at the time, so I just rode around with everybody else and hopped in their Jeeps. And then I had a friend who was very knowledgeable, and they told me about the quote-unquote holy grail of Jeeps and the LJ and the Rubicon, and I didn't know that was what I wanted at the time, but then I found out what it was and how it had, the great wheelbase, very capable. It had lockers and low range transfer case, and it was just a great platform. So that's what I was looking for, and that's what I ended up getting my sophomore year of college.
Nice.
And then, from there, just kind of learned how to break it, and then how to fix it, and then worked on building it so it would break less and less every time we went out.
Nice, yeah. Properly built, and just, I'm sure it's been a huge work in progress, gradual changes over the years. We don't have to go through all those incremental things. Although if someone wants like a really deep, detailed thing, we could work on that in another video. And speaking of other videos, definitely check out the one I did we just did actually, on my Jeep. And it's the current state and some future plans and all that stuff. That's brand new purchase. This you've had for a long time. You've loved it and lived with it. Clearly, you've used it.
Yeah.
There's some Jeeps out here in Colorado that are perfectly waxed, like ceramic coated, PPF'd. They probably go to the mall, and that's about it. This is not exactly a mall crawler.
I will say it's usually not just covered in mud. I will say I usually do keep it relatively clean, but it's between the cold temperatures and getting out in the winter wheeling, I haven't had the chance to spray it down and give it a good clean. But it is, I've kept it in decent condition. Interior's got upgrades, obviously exterior's got upgrades. Should we maybe walk through those?
Yeah, so
generally?
Yeah, really quick. So for those who don't know, LJ is just basically, it's a TJ Jeep from 97 to 06, and then the LJ was in like 04 to 06, late 04.
Yep.
And then 05 and 06 are the only years you could get the actual manual.
Yep.
They all had the inline 6, 190 horsepower stock, 235 pound-feet of torque stock. What is yours doing now?
So
is yours stock?
Well, so I was living in Dallas at the time a few years ago, and I had an opportunity to buy a Supercharged 4.0, which is the factory engine. Well, the factory engine's a 4.0, 6-cylinder, but I had the option to buy one that was supercharged from a guy who's doing an LS swap. And so it was kind of a funny story. I had gone by a shop and I had seen they were doing an LS swap, and I was like, hey, if that guy ever wants to sell that Supercharged 4.0, just let me know. And a few months had gone by and I hadn't heard from him, and so then I was on the Rubicon Trail, and I think I had just gotten off the trail. I was back at the house, and I called the shop. I don't remember why, but I called them and I was like, hey, have you guys, heard from the guy with the engine? Does he want to sell it to me? And they're like, well, he's actually here in the shop right now. Do you want to talk to him? And so I ended up talking to him, and so it's got a Sprintec supercharger. I'll show you. I ended up talking to the guy, and I think I bought it over the phone for like $1,250, the whole engine and supercharger.
Jeez.
which the supercharger kit alone is like $3,000. So pretty solid deal with that. I'm leaking a little bit of coolant right now, so it's a little messy. We'll come back to fixing that. But yeah, so we got the supercharger on here. I don't really know how much power it adds because I almost moved here immediately after putting it on, so I didn't really get to experience, you know, two different types of power at sea level. I just got one at sea level and then supercharged up here at altitude.
Did that at least feel comfortable?
Oh yeah, so I mean, it feels great. I mean,
yeah.
When I've driven another Jeep LJ Rubicon recently, and I was noticeable that this one had a supercharger because I was on 40-inch tires. It helps a lot when you're going up the mountains. I mean, it's not easy climbing up Eisenhower Pass with up to Eisenhower Tunnel rather with this Jeep, but the supercharger definitely helps out with that a lot.
It's even harder with the TJs, the short wheelbase with the 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
Up at altitude is rough.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think most people recommend the 4-liter inline 6. But yeah, that's pretty sweet, and I'm definitely jealous. I think a little more power would be nice, but I guess mine's just going to be slow and currently low compared to this one.
Yeah, so
these are 40s, you said?
Yeah, these are 40s.
Okay.
I won't give you the whole, you know, from start to now, but I guess I'll give you the highlights. So it did start off as the exact same drive chain as that Jeep, a 4.0 6-speed with Dana 44s front and rear. Eventually, over the course of the first 6 years of ownership, built out those Dana 44s with chromoly shafts, trusses. The front was sleeved and gusseted, and then the 3-link and 4-link in the rear. And then I was kind of at a weird place where I needed to either dump a bunch of money into the Dana 44s and rebuild them and re-gear them and run 37s, or I could take that money and do a one-ton swap. And so I had a position where I had access to the right facilities and tools and time and money, and so I decided to do the one-ton swap, and that took about 6 months over, I think it was 2022?
Yeah.
2022? 2021 I did it. And
late
so,
COVID project.
Yeah, it was a late COVID project. So we did the one-ton swap in 2021. And so yeah, so now we've got a Dana 60 front axle and a Sterling 10.5. They're running 40-inch tires on Vision bead locks. I've got hydro assist on it. We've already mentioned the supercharger, the 14-inch coilovers front and rear with air bumps. So lots of travel and good suspension. You know, anti-rock sway bar in the rear and a pack racing spring sway bar in the front. Aux lockers, and you'll notice right now the front differential is missing the air fitting, and we have it currently spooled. That's because the ARB solenoid on our compressor is leaking. So, you know, there's always a list of things to fix and do on these guys, but that's the fun in it, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's been a project for the past 8 years. I guess the other cool thing is about this Jeep is the front grille. So if you look at the Jeep from the front, it doesn't look like a normal LJ because this grille is a CJ grille. So
yeah.
it's a CJ. I don't know the exact model. I think it's probably a CJ5 or maybe one of those CJ like 2Bs or something. It's pretty tall relative to a TJ grille, but it's basically Frenched into my TJ grille. And then I've got these highline fenders with the turn signals blanked out. These are AEV fiberglass recreations. So if you are familiar with the AEV TJ Highline kit that's fairly sought after, these are the same fenders. They're just fiberglass recreations of those. And then I have a buddy who is good at fiberglass work, and so he blanked these turn signals out for me to kind of keep the CJ look going.
Very classy, very old school vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I don't know. That's the front end for the most part. And I'd really, if you don't have an aluminum tie rod on your rock crawler, highly recommend aluminum tie rods. They're great. You can hit them and they bend right back.
Nice.
So you don't have to worry about bending your steel tie rod and not having it come back and driving home with your tires all towed in. As you see, I've got matching semi boat-sided rocker panels on both sides. In the past 2 trips to Carnage Canyon here in the great state of Colorado, I have bent both of my rocker panels like this on both sides. Luckily my door was closed, so I think it helped keep the rigidity in this part, but so the door still opens and closes. But yeah, we got some nice custom work there.
Yeah, they used to be black. Right now they're just kind of brown.
And then yeah, in the rear, like I said, we've got 14-inch coilovers in the rear, air bumps, and an anti-rock sway bar. The rear is double triangulated 4-link. And then to match the front grille, we have this CJ tailgate that I put on. My paint is chipping in various spots, but this was another 2021 project. a lot of fun. These were both my first bodywork projects. I've never really done bodywork before, so it's kind of my first hand at painting. I painted this myself, and everything else. And you can see like this is all cracking, and it needs to get redone, but it's pretty neat. And then it also, you know, opens from here, drops down. You got all the platform here.
Yeah.
And then we have a spare tire and custom cage work.
Dang.
This is usually where I put a refrigerator, but right now it's holding all my dog stuff.
Yeah,
But
this cage is intense.
yeah, the first time I went to to Moab, which was back in 2019, I really didn't want to go there without having a cage. So I built this, but I've rebuilt this cage, I think 3 different times, because it started off with hoops that came all the way down to here, and this spare tire, I was back on 35s, and it was actually standing vertically behind the driver's seat.
Yeah.
But over the iterations, it's been changed, and we have more headroom up front, and most importantly, and then we have lights in the back, and obviously it accommodates a 40-inch tire nowadays. So yeah, we can. It's been a lot of fun doing that, learning how to bend tube and you know, form a cage.
You've just learned so much random stuff from working on this thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like my other car is a Miata, and that's what I've had. No, I've had nothing but a Miata for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And in Colorado, it's kind of like, well, you get snow and stuff and trails, and
right.
The Miata's been fine, just snow tires. But learning everything I could on that car, and now I'm super stoked to get into the Jeep game.
Yep.
And this thing just gives me more ideas.
Well, and so you know, one of the things they talk about with the LJ is the great wheelbase that comes with from the factory. I think it's 104.
Yeah.
So that's what this was originally, but since then I've stretched it 5 inches in the, or excuse me, 4.5 inches in the rear ish, and then an inch forwards in the front. So we're sitting at about 109.5 inch wheelbase on these axles.
Yeah, so it's closer to like the new Unlimited wheelbase, the 4-door Jeeps.
Yeah.
And definitely longer than the short wheelbase 2-door. Short wheelbase is really great for your what's it called? Not the approach or departure, but the
turning radius.
The other angle.
Oh, your breakover.
Breakover.
Yeah, your breakover angle. So exactly.
Short wheelbase is great for that, but also you lose some of the stability, especially if you're climbing or going down or up. And so longer wheelbase is a bit better for that, and especially like low center of gravity is nice.
And that's exactly why we stretched this longer, was because with the taller tires, you kind of want to push it out a little bit to, you do lose the breakover angle, but to increase your stability on those climbs.
Yeah, yeah.
And we did, and I'll say, I did try to do a decent job of keeping it pretty low center of gravity, even though it does have, you know, a good bit of up travel when you're on 40s, but it's sitting relatively low. I mean, if you go put this beside a 2500 series truck, it's about the same height, so you don't really, you're not sitting up as high as you think you would be when you're in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this thing is super sweet. I mean, is that most of what's been done? Super high level. I mean,
yeah, super high level. I mean, you can show you interior as well, just because it is pretty easy to high level as well. We've got the PRP seats with the red harnesses, and then we've got some custom wiring and switch panel that we built. That was a COVID project for all of our lights, lockers, air compressors, that kind of stuff, and then a head unit, and that's about it.
This is so cool. Yeah, nice. It's a fun time. Fun thing to crawl around in.
Yeah, for sure.
Even on the streets. I mean, obviously it's great on the trails, but how is it on the roads?
I mean, it drives pretty well. It handles, it's very stable. You don't have to worry about tipping over. You don't have to worry about, you know, anything else. It brakes well, but I will say it rides a little rough. I mean, it's set off to be off-roading, so it's meant to be hitting a little bit harder bumps, and it rides a little rough. But we are getting the shocks tuned. The front Kings are going to be getting tuned by Filthy Motorsports in Boulder later this year, so I'm very excited. I've never had them tuned for this vehicle. They're going to get new springs, new valving, new oil. It's going to be great. So check back for that update.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have lots more updates on this in the future. And of course, hopefully some like actual off-roading videos to come. Like, definitely. I think filming adventures is super cool. Some of you guys can come along for the ride. You can even like scope out trails virtually ahead of time. I think that's something I've looked into before, is like, I mean, even the car scene, like when you're going to go think about driving a track, you usually watch videos of people on track first. Same with trails. Like, a lot of people are curious what the trail's like before they quote unquote commit.
Yep.
So it's something we could do. Definitely
go check out off-roading.
Check out a lot of trails. Definitely leave down in the comments like trails you want to see specifically, maybe to help us prioritize. And we'll probably be doing Yankee Hill and Switzerland Trail and Boulder 68J. And
We did Pickle Gulch yesterday.
Nice.
And then once we get you on some bigger tires, we'll maybe do like Chinaman Gulch and whatever else you guys think of.
Yeah, so throw stuff down in the comments. If you have any questions on Dial's Jeep, let us know down below too. We can always answer stuff. And if you have ideas, I mean, we like the open conversation. It's just a fun time, fun hangout.
Yeah.
Just an easy way to make friends too. I mean, clearly I just met Dial through Jeeps, so.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do like a deeper dive on the suspension and stuff on when this. So we want to.
Yeah.
When we start looking at upgrading yours, we can do a side by side and look at what we did here and why we did it here, and then what we're going to do with that one and why we're going to do it on that one.
Definitely. So yeah, thanks so much for watching another roads optional video.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see what happens next. Who knows? Sky's the limit. Cheers.